talking about the Snake Plissken franchise, the Escape from New York, Escape from LA films, and also what's kind of behind it, things I've collected. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing the films, I'm not going through the film and saying, the film begins, blah blah blah. You've already seen the film, I'm sure, and if you haven't, just watch it. You don't want to really be listening to me kind of saying what happens in it. What I'm going to be talking about here is my fan perspective and how I follow these films, how I kind of grew up with the character as well. Now, just want to say initially as well, this is the 1 year anniversary of Brand X Reviews. About a year ago, it was October the 9th, 2013, and I started out just doing a quick review of the Dark Knight Trilogy box set and put it on Facebook. Had a lot of positive feedback, so a year later I've done a load of reviews, got a website about it. So for the 1 year anniversary, I wanted to do something that I'm a big fan of that I can really talk about. So Snake Plissken, basically. So I'll start anyway with my kind of thoughts on the character's origins. Obviously, the character himself is very largely based on archetypal characters such as the Clint Eastwood spaghetti western character, the man with no name, and other characters as well. John Carpenter has actually said in interviews he originally wrote the story, the character, based on, well, wanting it to be played by Clint Eastwood or Charles Bronson, who were big action stars at the time, I guess, late 70s, or, well, mid-70s, I think, when it was written. So, they went with Kurt Russell anyway. Kurt Russell was really kind of up and coming at the time. I know he had auditioned for Han Solo, actually, in 1975 in Star Wars. You can see the video of that on YouTube, so check that out. But Kurt Russell is somebody that he'd worked with, well, John Carpenter had worked with as a film director on Elvis, which I think was a TV movie. I don't know if it had a cinema release. But Kurt Russell had played Elvis. I know he's a big Elvis fan. He was in an Elvis film with the real Elvis Presley back in the late 50s, early 60s, I think, when he was a boy. He had one scene in it. Again, you can check that out on YouTube. I think it's called Something Happened at the World's Fair, or It Happened at the World's Fair, something like that anyway. But you can see the clip. Just type in Elvis Presley, Kurt Russell, you'd probably find that amongst other things. You'd probably also find the clip from Forrest Gump where Elvis Presley supposedly is in the film, but he's actually voiced by Kurt Russell. You might not have known that. The bit where Sally Field walks in and Elvis Presley's in, he's like, "Oh, I'm just showing him how to play the guitar here," kind of thing. That's Kurt Russell's voice. You might not have known that. It's not really relevant to Escape from LA, so let's rein it back into the Snake Plissken character. So, my early memories of the film, I probably saw Escape from New York when I was about 10-ish, so very early 90s, and I remember we had it on tape. It was a version that my mother had recorded off TV, so it had adverts in it as well, I seem to remember, and for years that was what we owned. And I remember when it was my 13th birthday, I got a video player in my room, and Escape from New York was like one of the first films I watched on it, because it was one of my favourite films. It was one of those kind of things like, whoa, I can watch Escape from New York anytime I want to. So yeah, that was what we had. Now, I do remember in '96 there was a re-release of the film on videotape, just repackaged, essentially. I think it was done by BMG, the company, because there was an advert for the Escape from LA score, which the film Escape from LA was just coming out around about that time. That's why they re-released it. There was also a trailer for Escape from LA as well, so it was quite nice to have that. But the quality was pretty terrible. I think you could get it on widescreen. I didn't. I had it on full screen, because back then it was hard to get hold of certain things like widescreen. We didn't have Amazon like we do today. So you just basically got what you could get your hands on. So I had that version for years, and then around about 2000, DVDs were really picking up. I think I got my first DVD player it was on Boxing Day '99, and literally one of the first films I bought was John Carpenter's The Thing, which is another Kurt Russell film. I'm sure you're well aware of that. Was released the year after Escape from New York, 1982. So a few months went by, and I did eventually get a copy of Escape from New York. I found it in a shop. It was a very basic copy of the film. The quality wasn't brilliant. It was in widescreen, which was an improvement for me anyway on the version I already had. But the extra features were very basic. It might have had a trailer, I don't even think it had that. It had a lot of text, and it had some screenshots of this opening scene that was a deleted opening scene, which I'd never seen. I don't know if it was available online anywhere. We didn't have YouTube back then, this was 2000. So stuff like that, if it wasn't on the DVD, you wouldn't really get to see it. So that was the version that we had for a lot of years. Kind of beyond that, there was Escape from LA was on DVD. But I'll get into that film later on. Now there was a DVD that came out, a special edition. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut away. I'm going to talk about the comics, the Snake Plissken comics that I've collected, and then I'll pick up back onto the availability of the DVD that came out after those. So yeah, let's have a look at the comics anyway. Okay, so this is my collection of Snake Plissken comics. For the most part, it's just variant issues. It looks like there's more comics done than there actually were. I just collected all the different covers, which I will get to. But it started off with this one anyway, The Adventures of Snake Plissken, which was Marvel and Paramount Comics crossover in January 1997. As I say, it was a one-off, so the whole thing is a self-contained story. I'll just kind of blitz through it. I'm not going to go into the actual story and everything. If you want to know, you can kind of buy the thing yourself or download it, whatever you want to do. But I got this off eBay anyway, being a collector. I had to get it from America, and I think it only cost like £10, something like that, including postage. But the basic story of this is the police are after Snake Plissken. I believe, from memory, it's set between Escape from New York and Escape from LA. So the police are after Snake Plissken, and they have this robot, this kind of Marvel comic style, Ultron style machine that they use to go after Snake Plissken, and it uses his tactics against him, I guess you'd put it that way. But in doing so, it kind of imitates him to the point where it basically becomes a machine clone of him, and obviously he defeats it. A lot of people get killed, there's a lot of action, there you can kind of see for yourself how it's kind of laid out. And it's pretty much it, the end. It's a one-off story. There's a few bits and pieces in this based on just the editorial kind of thing there, based on how the guys that did it were like big fans of the character. So yeah, it's like I said, it's done in 1997, so it's packed out with adverts of things from the time. If you're into like computer games and stuff, there's Sega Saturn advertisements. I think there's even a PlayStation 1 thing in here as well. It's nice to own anyway. So that was again obviously to kind of promote Escape from LA. It came out a few months after the film was released in cinemas. The film came out in 96, that came out in 97. So a few years later anyway, Hurricane Comics, Hurricane Entertainment and CrossGen Comics did this 4-part series called the Snake Plissken Chronicles. And there's a few different variants on this. I'll get into some of the contents anyway, but you start off with this special preview comic, and it's this one I've got is actually signed by the artist. So let's have a quick look at what's inside this. So on the inside, it's, as I say, it's just a preview. This came out kind of as a forerunner for the actual comics themselves when they did them properly. So the artwork is very kind of, almost kind of like you would say storyboarded in preparation for doing the actual comic itself. So it's interesting to see. It's only recently that I've actually got this as well. I've read the comic several times, the 4-part thing that they did, but I've never actually seen this before. So it's interesting to see where they got with it. And then there's a lot of written stuff as well, an interview with John Carpenter himself, because I know John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the producer, Deborah Hill, and John Carpenter, the film director, were involved with these. See a bit of artwork there as well. And this was the cover for one of the actual comics that they went with later on for issue 1, one of the variants. So you can see that there, all very interesting. So coming spring 2003. So yeah, it was 2003, 2004. I remember it was around the 40th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, because that actually plays in some of the story here, but I'll get to that in a moment. So let's go on to the actual ones themselves, the finished graphic novels. So issue 1 has 3 variants. So you've got issue 1 cover A, which is this one here. You can see it's a snake is back on the graffiti there. Cover B is this one here. You can see it's got that. Cover C is this one. So a quick look at that. So I think that one's probably my favourite. I used to have this in a frame actually. I don't know what happened to it, but anyway, let's have a look at the actual the basic content of itself. So as you'll see, some of this might look familiar from the preview issue that I just showed you before. Things like this. You kind of see. So it's Snake Plissken, and this is set. If I just kind of rewind a bit, this is set. It says it begins early the next day, so this means straight after the events of Escape from New York. So there's lots of kind of mindless action and violence that goes on in this. It's very comic booky, so I think some fans were really kind of distraught about this because it was very much cartoon violence in comparison to perhaps Escape from New York. Maybe Escape from LA was a bit more cartoony in terms of the action that was in it, but I liked it. I'm a fan of these. I've read it many times. Not massively into comics, so I'm not a snob or anything like that when it comes to it. But anyway, the basics of the story is Snake Plissken kind of gets in on stealing the Lincoln Continental convertible, the car that President Kennedy was assassinated in back in 1963. I don't even think this car. I'm pretty sure this car was like crushed and destroyed after the Kennedy assassination. But there you go. So he gets betrayed to Snake Plissken anyway, thrown into a cage, left for dead kind of thing. That's how issue number 1 ends. And the rest of it, there's a bit more artwork there, and some more kind of behind the scenes information, letters, that kind of stuff. And there's a preview of something else as well. But that's pretty much it for issue 1 anyway. So let's have a look at issue 2. Okay, so issue number 2 has this. We have cover A. So let's just have a quick scan of that, as you can see that. And then there's cover B, which is this one here. I think my favourite is this one of the two. So let's have a look at the contents. Going back to issue 1 just slightly, there was a thing on the back of it that advertised issue number 2, so it was August 6th, which I believe that would have been 2003. 2 covers, you decide, so that's what I'm just showing you. So yeah, issue number 2, let's have a quick look. So as I say, Snake Plissken in the last issue was thrown into a cage and left for dead. He gets rescued by this fisherman, this guy here, so then he kind of teams up with him. He's about to kill him at first, but decides that, oh yeah, there we go, he was going to murder him, but then these guys turn up and all hell breaks loose. Somebody's hand gets chopped off there, as you can see. Again, very cartoon violence. More action, and it goes on. And then, as I say, he's teamed up with the fisherman guy, goes in to steal Kennedy's car, and then there's a woman that works in the museum kind of bursts in, and just as that happens, the guys that kind of set him up for the job, they just turn up to be continued in the next issue. So again, there's a bit more stuff here. There's some news here as well. It's quite interesting looking at it in... you can kind of pause this video if you want to have a bit of a read of it. But there's a lot of stuff about... Throughout these, there's a lot of news and information that was coming out at the time about a Snake Plissken computer game. There's also going to be an animated, well, an anime-style film as well. None of these materialised, they all kind of fell through. They were selling things here as well. There was also talk of the Escape from New York DVD release as well, which is something I'll kind of get into. There were a couple of other variant covers, but I think D and E of issue 1 were very rare as far as I'm aware. I've never actually seen these for sale anywhere, so I've never been able to pick them up. And then kind of the rest of that issue, not much else in there. So it advertises covers number 3 out October 1st with 2 covers. So let's have a look at issue number 3. A closer look at issue number 3, the covers, cover A as we have here. And this, as I say, was around about the 40th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. I believe that was that November 21st or 22nd, 1963, I think, when it happened. So this was the month before, so it was a very kind of controversial thing. You've got Kennedy there, which is a dummy of Kennedy getting blown up. Kind of a little in-joke. This was the other cover, cover B, as you can see here. Still quite good, but I prefer this one anyway, out of these two. So let's have a look at the contents of this. So it picks up where it left off. Plissken is inside the car about to steal it, and when the other guys that set him up and left him for dead in issue number 1 just turn up, so all hell breaks loose. There's a gunfight, and the car kind of crashes out of there, and there's another chase, lots of explosions. This bit I seem to remember was the controversial bit where there's a helicopter chasing Plissken in the Lincoln convertible, and it shoots through Kennedy's dummy that's sat in the back of the car like that. So that was quite controversial at the time, to be fair. Rest of it is just again more action, more explosions. I'm not gonna go through the whole story in a lot of detail. You can always buy these if you want to read them fully, or just download them. And then it says to be concluded, so obviously it's a 4-part thing. This was part 3. And then there's some extra artwork that we'll look at. More letters to the editor kind of thing here. Talking about other stuff. This was some of the merchandise you could get at the time as well. Kind of advertised there, some signatures by autographs. Some of the people that were involved, John Carpenter as well. And you can see there a bit more information about that. Then there were these t-shirts. You can still get these t-shirts off eBay from what I understand. I have seen them if you type in Snake Plissken. They're not brilliant. I didn't bother getting them because they're not easily identifiable as that. Then we have a bit of a look back at the previous covers as well that you could collect. And then it just kind of goes on about the other comics. So this is the back of the thing. You can see there just advertising some of the other comics. So let's have a look at the concluding part, which is issue number 4. So issue number 4, as we've got here, cover A, which is this one here. Probably my favourite of the 2 for this issue. And then we have cover B as well. Still very good. So let's have a look at the contents. So again, obviously picks up where it left off last time. You've got more bad guys, more violence, more action, more cartoony stuff going on. Gunfights, police chases, explosions. Just kind of flick through it. And I'll just kind of go through. There's a pretty big finale as well with this blimp, and there's like a massive explosion. It's fairly hard to follow what happens at this bit actually, but it doesn't quite make sense. But I'll let you read it anyway, without going into too much detail. And that's pretty much it. It ends the end, so there's nothing else after this, and they never did any more. So there's a bit more stuff with letters and stuff like that. Same kind of advertisements as we had in the previous issue. And we've got the library of different covers here, which I've already showed you. And just more stuff advertising other stuff. Oh yeah, there's this as well. Quite nice. And that, like I said, that you could get that on a t-shirt as well. But finally, they were advertising this Escape from New York Special Edition DVD, which I was waiting a long time for. In fact, let's get into the DVD thing now. So yeah, advertised on the back of that last issue, there was the special edition, which is this. Now this is something that we'd waited years for. As I say, I bought my first Escape from New York DVD in 2000. It wasn't very good quality, and the basic extras weren't very much to kind of write home about. So I waited years for this special edition, and I think it was kind of originally said they were going to release it in 2003. We went to the shops the day it was supposed to come out and it wasn't there. It had been delayed. Again, 2004, same thing happened again. 2005 came, there was a date for it to be released. Me and a friend of mine called Buff. If you're watching this, hey up Buff, how do? We went to the shop the day of release in 2005, which was in October. I think it was the 17th of October because I've just seen the receipt in here. They had it brilliant, but we still didn't believe it. We were like, right, although I've got it in my hands and I've paid money for this, because we've been let down that many times, I still don't believe it. This has got to be some kind of like mirage. I'm not going to believe it until I put the disc in. But you know, it works. That's fine. I think we've been really kind of got a bit paranoid by that point, to be honest. So this was a special edition version. With this, you got the a better quality version of the film. You got the deleted scene, the original opening, bank robbery sequence, audio commentaries, and also there's an Escape from New York featurette as well, which is pretty cool, and trailers. So it was very nice to have that. So that's Escape from New York, and I do believe there's a Blu-ray of Escape from New York, but I've heard really bad reviews about it, that they've really enhanced it to the point where it just looks bad. So I've stuck with the DVD. Now, one other memory I have of Escape from New York, this was the year that Escape from LA came out. Me and the friend I just mentioned, Buff, he is similar to me. We kind of grew up with the Snake Plissken character. We were big fans as kids. So we were like 15, I think, when Escape from LA came out. And the night of New Year's from 96 into 97, obviously Escape from New York is set in 97 and the film opens 1997 now. Us being complete geeks, we're just kids, we're 15, we said, right, after midnight we will put Escape from New York on because it opens 1997 now. And that was our kind of motivation. We just thought it'd be cool. 1997 is here, watch a film that says 1997 now. So that's what we did. But then we thought, well, hang on a minute, Escape from LA is like kind of come out, and that is set in 2013. I don't think we'd seen the film at this point, but we knew that it opened 2013 now. So we'd said, back in 1997, we said, what we'll do is, in 16 years' time, we'll get together and we'll watch Escape from LA after midnight into 2013. So this was, we're like kind of thinking, well, we're going to be like grown-ups by then. It's like, will we still be like, kind of sad enough to do this? What we'll be like, we'll have lives, won't we, by then? Surely we'll be all grown up and stuff. We won't be doing stuff like that at that age. So years went by anyway. I've kept in touch with Buff, see him every now and again. And every now and again we'll be like, right, are we still on for 2013? Buff will be like, yep, still on for it. So did we live up to the promise? Well, I'll let you know in a moment. Anyway, I'll talk about Escape from LA now. Now, I remember the first time I heard about this film. It was one of my sister's boyfriend at the time, back in '96. It's a long time ago. There was a guy called George. George, if you're watching, hi, I'm talking about you. It was him that told me about Escape from LA. Back in that time, we had the internet, but it wasn't like it is today. So if you didn't really get to see like a trailer or an advert on TV or something, it was just rumour that this thing was getting made. But he told me, they're doing a sequel to Escape from New York, a film that you really like. So I was like, whoa, brilliant, what's it called? Escape from LA. I was like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. So I remember him telling me about, there's a bit that he's seen where Snake Plissken turns around and shoots a guy in the face or something. I think that must have been the look at my face when I'm talking to you, shitheel bit, presumably. That tended to be in a lot of the trailers, that bit. So, a lot of time went by, and I think it was October 96. We had planned to go see Escape from LA in Bradford on a Saturday night, and we were 15, so Bradford's a pretty rough place. It was back then, it still is today. I mean, I was just reading today about a guy that got like pistol whipped in Bradford by some muggers. So that's the extreme we went to see this film at the cinema, and we were 15, so we were just about old enough to watch it. But there's a big cock-up anyway. The film wasn't showing when we thought it was. We'd been misinformed, and instead we had to go see The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy. Not a bad film, but it's no Escape from LA. But we had to wait until the video release, and again, frustratingly, back in 1997, which was by the time the thing got released on video, it was rental only. You couldn't buy this. So from a fan's point of view, it really kind of teased you. It was like, you've got the film in your hands, and you have to give it back in a day or two. Really annoying. But my mother rented it for me because I was too young to have a Global Video membership. So my mother rented it and we watched it together. Quite a happy memory. My mother's passed away in recent times, so that's kind of one of the few happy memories I've got. Now, I remember she didn't like it. She said, "Oh, it's too macho," kind of thing. But no, I thought it kicked ass, to be honest. A lot of people criticised Escape from LA. Even fans of the original film didn't like it. It wasn't as good as Escape from New York, but I still loved it. I think it's really good. Now, when we did go to see the film at the cinema and failed, we ended up going to see The Nutty Professor. Buff, you know what story I'm going to tell here. They had this postcard on the shelves for Escape from New York. It's like a foreign version of the film poster. Buff was going to get this, and he was kind of like bragging because it was the only one they had left, and like we're both big fans. And he's like, "Ha! I got this postcard," and he's like, "Yeah, I might get it." And he put it back on the shelf. Big mistake, Buff. I snatched it off the shelf and bought it. Rules are rules. It was on the shelf. If you wanted it, you shouldn't have put it on there. So I've been taunting him for years with this. So Buff, I've got the postcard. Anyway, so throwing it on the floor. So that was Escape from LA anyway. As I say, it came out to rent around about April '97. I just remember it was when I was doing my GCSEs, kind of in my last year at school. And it came out to buy a long time after that as well, because back in the 90s you would wait a long time between something getting released at cinema and coming out to buy. In fact, I remember I got it ex-rental, because it's still by, I think, August, late summer 97, before we started college basically. The only version you could get was ex-rental if you were lucky to get it. So I did eventually get it on DVD come sort of after 2000-ish. It was widescreen, it was better quality, but the extras are pretty rubbish. I think you just get the trailer and that's about it. I don't think there's even an audio commentary on it, which is kind of naff. And as far as I know, there's no better version of it available. Could be wrong about that. But I was kind of telling you the story before about back in New Year's '97, me and Buff got together and watched Escape from New York for the 1997 Now, and we promised we will get back together in 2013. And did we stick to that? Yes, we did. We, in fact, even the core, who you might have seen in some of the videos, he attended as well. We got together, we had a kind of a reunion with the Buff, because we don't often see him. You, Buff, if you're watching this. Yeah, we all stuck to it and we watched it after midnight. It's a pretty good New Year's for me, because at the time my mother was terminally ill. She's since passed away, but she was really circling the drain that Christmas. I didn't expect her to come home. She came home on New Year's Eve 2012 into 2013, so that was great. And then we watched Escape from LA as planned 16 years prior, so it was like one of the best New Year's I've ever had, so pretty cool. That's a fan story anyway, and that's probably not really relevant to a review of the film, but as a fan that's something nice anyway I could kind of share.
Now there are a few action figures that you can collect. Some of these are custom made, but there are ones that are officially licensed. So let's have a look at the ones now that I've collected anyway so far. There's only two, to be fair.
Okay, and here we have the Snake Plissken Movie Maniacs figure from McFarlane Toys, which I think was released around about 2000. There's a few different variants on this, one with, one without the jacket on. I think you always got the jacket with it, but in some cases it was boxed with or without. You can pretty much switch. I think this one was actually boxed without the jacket, so if you've got that and you do want him with the jacket on, it is possible to get it on him. The material just kind of flex a little bit. You can also change the guns around and stuff, but I think this is this was the nicest pose that I could get. You can take these guns out of the holsters and move them about. They fit in any of the hands. You can put the rifle in this hand or that hand, or just switch it about basically. The belt kind of moves, but doesn't really do much. But it's a very nice item anyway. If you're a collector, this looks really nice on your shelf. I tend to have this in the background anyway. Don't know if you can usually see it in a lot of my reviews. So I think pretty much any angle you stand in it looks cool. So it's got the gear that he wears in Escape from LA. It's pretty much my review of that anyway.
Okay, so a couple of months ago I typed in on eBay Snake Plissken figure and I found this little beauty here, so something that's been recently released. I'm not sure if it's available in the shops, but let's have a look at it anyway.
Okay, so here is the figure itself. When you buy it brand new, packaged and unopened, you can see here some of the artwork. The guns that it has are kind of sellotaped into the sides, as you can see there, so they're not kind of rattling around, I guess. And we'll have a more look at the actual figure itself when we take it out of the box, but for now this is the actual packaging that it comes in. I do like the fact that the I always want to call it reflection, it's called reaction, just looks like reflection. Logo similar to the Kenner logo. You can clearly tell they're obviously kind of going for that kind of vibe with this. There's the actual the packaging details. As I say, there is another one available, a different kind of variation one, but I went for this one when I ordered it. I may at some point pick that one up, but it's essentially the same figure. So that's the actual packaging anyway, so let's take it out and have a better look. Okay, let's have a look at the figure outside of the box. This one, you can put guns in either hand, and it looks pretty good. If you just want to pose this thing on your shelf, it's maybe not quite as good as the Escape from LA McFarlane Toys one, but still looks very good nevertheless. Obviously this is a throwback. I mean, obviously this, as a modern figure, isn't really the kind of standard that toy manufacturers aspire to. I can't even get it to stand up. But clearly it's based on the old Kenner toys, such as Star Wars figures. I've got one to hand here, you can see. It's the same kind of size and has a similar kind of look to it, where the joints are all kind of on the shoulders and in the kind of the waist area where sort of the legs and the arms can move, but that's pretty much it. Also the head moves left and right, but that's about it. Even the logo obviously is based on the toys is based on the old Kenner Toys logo as well. But it's still very nice. As I say, it's something that a collector of just movie action figures would love, but also fans of Snake Plissken as well, like myself, will go nuts to own something like this. So that's that anyway. I don't really have much else to say about this one. That's pretty much it for that. There's also the soundtracks I've mentioned from talking about collectibles and stuff. I'll kind of end it on that, I suppose. There's an expanded version of the Escape from New York score. I say expanded, it does have some extra music, but it also has a lot of dialogue in it, which I think is overkill, to be honest. You're listening to a soundtrack and then you've got like a minute's worth of just random dialogue from the film. From a film you've seen many times over, you don't really need to hear it. But they've added it on anyway, that was a decision they took. This is some of the artwork, not really much. A few extra tracks. It does tell you which the extra tracks are as well. In fact, I only just bought this recently. Up till now, I only owned the normal version of the score. There's the Escape from LA score, which, like I say, was advertised on the videotape release of Escape from New York in '96. I think it was done by BMG, was that tape version, as was the score. Now, the score from Escape from LA was done by John Carpenter. He did a lot of his own film scores, I think most, if not all of them. But it was also done by Shirley Walker, who did the Batman animated TV series in the 90s score. So when you're listening to it, you can kind of get that vibe. So there's like artwork and notes there as well. So that's that. I did actually buy this the day that we were going to go see Escape from LA as well. So I remember I'd heard the score long before I actually got to see the film. Escape from LA, the soundtrack, which is songs, and it's got some pretty good bands actually. Stabbing Westward, White Zombie, Rob Zombie as he is now. A few other bands that I've heard of before. I think Tool, I've heard of them. But this is a really good album. A lot of the songs, as I said, featured in the film itself and in the trailer. You can see some of the artwork there. I'll just kind of pan across. It's mostly kind of 90s rock music. I mean, if you've seen the film, I'm sure you'll have heard a lot of these songs in the film to kind of get an idea as to what it is. But this film, as I say, was set in 2013. It was quite clever how they did Escape from New York and Escape from LA. They released Escape from LA the year before Escape from New York was set, so there was always a kind of, this is set in the future kind of thing, because by 97, Escape from New York was like massively outdated. It was no longer a futuristic film. So, I mean, we've now gone beyond 2013, but all these films, everything about them is set in the past, a future that never came kind of thing. So they could do another one, but I guess if they did, they'd have to set it in, 2030 or something like that. And the success of Escape from LA wasn't all that great, so I really don't think that they would. As I say, when I was talking before about comics, there have been plans to do computer games, anime films as well, that just never materialised. There is a fan following, but it's not an epic one, to be fair. It's not like massive, big enough that they would recoup money if they spent a certain amount of money on another film. There was talk about 10 years ago of a reboot with Gerard Butler at the time, who wasn't that well known. I had to look his name up when I first heard. That's the first time I even heard of who Gerard Butler was. He was this guy that was going to be Snake Plissken, this Scottish guy. So that's a terrible idea. But he's since kind of come into his own with a lot of his other films like Rock and Roller and stuff. So I think by now he's too big to really do an Escape from Snake Plissken film in that sense, in terms of like box office recognition. So I'm going to end it there anyway. I've ranted way too much, but as I said, this is something I grew up with, and this is the first anniversary of Brand X Reviews, so I really wanted to talk about something that I could just rabbit on about, which I've done, so I'll leave it there anyway. So if you want to check it out, it's brandxreviews.com, that's the website there. We do reviews and also do video reports and stuff like that of upcoming projects as well. So if there is any developments with the whole Snake Plissken thing, kind of doubt there will be, but we will keep you up to date. And if you are a fan of the Snake Plissken comics, there is, I think they're doing some more. I've heard recently they're going to do some more Snake Plissken ones, and also Big Trouble in Little China franchise is picking up with some comics of that. In fact, I've got an article about that at brandxreviews.com. Just Google it anyway, and you'll find it. So I'll leave it there anyway. So thank you very much for watching.